Hey, what's going on, dudes? My name is Rex, and we are back with some more Elder Scrolls Skyrim Loreplay Edition. On the last episode, we talked about Meridia, and thanks to her, we got the beautiful weapon Dawnbreaker, one of my favorite weapons in the game. But yeah, we talked about Meridia. We talked about the fact that she is not a Daedra, but in fact an Aedra that just happens to be living in Oblivion. And we, of course, talked about her story, at least as far as we know. And today, we're going to be making our way over to the next Daedra, which is Malakath. Now, Malakath, of course, is also an Aedra that basically became a Daedra. So we're sort of hitting that same point. Soon, we're not actually going to make it to Malakath because to activate Malakath's quest, we actually have to make it to an orc village. But that orc village is a little bit out of the way, and we're going to be passing through a couple of locations, and I don't want to skip those locations because I think those locations are interesting. So this is going to be a walking episode. We're going to be making our way to that orc village and just having some conversations and finding some very useful things. One of those useful things, of course, is this word of power that I cannot leave behind because it happens to be one of my favorite words of power, and in fact, the one that we will probably be using a lot, the most, I would say, during this playthrough. Unfortunately, I do not have dragon souls, so I cannot get it just yet, but we will be killing a dragon this episode, hopefully, so we will remedy that pretty quickly. Now, before I move, I do want to talk a little bit about this because we can actually translate this, so I'm not going to leave until we make this happen. Now, Dove is a language in the game, of course, and the language can be translated into English. The problem is that whatever actually shows here, this that you're actually seeing here, is sort of random. It's completely dependent on which word of power you're getting at the time. So for this specific word of power, which happens to be Zu from Elemental Fury, which means air, we're getting it here, but there's obviously other two locations where we could have gotten the word Zu. And wherever you get the word Zu, you get a very specific paragraph. And of course, if you were to get, for example, another word of power, then that paragraph would have changed depending on the word of power. So what says here is, "Here lies Fioldmod Foulair, who stank as much on earth as his body does now in the ground." And again, that paragraph is completely dedicated to the word air, to the word Zu, which happens to be in the paragraph, and that's why we got it here. But it's kind of interesting. I wish that the locations for the words of power were set, like predetermined, so that the actual story that you get from translating the text could actually be applied. But alas, we cannot. This individual Foulair, or Fioldmod, it's kind of like a weird J pronunciation that is like a Nordic pronunciation I don't know how to do. Foulair. We don't know if he actually was buried here or in any of the other two locations, which is sad. But alas, let's go ahead and move on. Now, I asked you guys on the last episode if you guys could ask me some questions. But before I get to your questions, I wanted to get to some of the questions that were asked of me 2 years ago because I still haven't answered them, and I just didn't want it to just leave them just, in the dark. So I'm going to be answering those first, and then for the next episode, I'm going to be, looking over on my Twitter or on the comment section to see what you guys want answered. Samurai Mantis Shrimp 2 said, "I have a question. Could you talk about the different breeds of Khajiit? I'd love to hear you talk about it." So, what he's referring to is the fact that Khajiits can be...
Take my advice. Don't listen to that talk of the face sculptor down in the Ragged Flagon. Face Butcher is more like it from what I've heard.
That's hilarious. The face sculpture was supposed to be this very famous sculpture that was known in the high society of the world, and she could change shapes, the shapes of faces for people. But apparently she screwed up the faces of so many nobles that now she is stuck in the Ragged Flagon, which is basically the worst place you want to be. Is It's like the backwater of Riften. But yeah, anyways, this is kind of interesting. So what Samurai Mantis Shrimp is referring to here is the fact that Khajiits actually change shape depending on the phases of the moon, specifically when they're born. So if a Khajiit is born on, a full moon or something like that, it's actually born a different type of Khajiit. Now, there are actually two moons. One is Masser, the other one is Secunda. One is enormous, the other one is a little bit smaller. And according to Khajiit culture, they're supposed to be gods. They're not just like floating, masses of earth. They're actually sort of gods. It's like a common feature between faiths and religions in Elder Scrolls that the satellites that float around the cosmos are actually gods or the remains of gods. And here we're gonna find the Snowshot farm. These guys are kind of interesting because they're the only other noble Nordic family in Riften. Of course, the other one being the Blackbriars that you guys probably know very well. This is like the other rich family that lives in Riften. It's interesting because the Snowshots are like super pro. Jesus Christ, what in the blazes? Oh, well, we have guards here to help me. Yeah, go get them, boys. It's just like a random group of... Jesus. God. What is happening? Oh, no. I legit have no healing abilities. Well, this is gonna be interesting. I'll just... Oh, those are afflicted. They're like trying to kill me because I killed basically all of them 2 episodes ago. That is hilarious. Yeah, after you do the Periates Daedric quest, you have a small chance that these guys will show up and attempt to kill you for what you did to them, which is hilarious. But anyways, there's really not much to talk about the Snowshots. They're just like the other family. They're super like pro Stormcloak. In fact, most of their family members are actually fighting for the Stormcloaks, and the younger sister of the younger daughter of the family got killed fighting for the Stormcloak. She was a healer and got killed in the war, so the family's not doing too good right now, which is kind of sad. More sad, though, is the fact that I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I did not expect not having any healing potions, so this is gonna suck. Hello there. I'm gonna just rely on the power of Dawnbreaker to save me here. But yeah, the Khajiits. So, I'm getting distracted a little bit. The Khajiits have multiple shapes, and they literally change, like, dramatically depending on the states of the moon. So, you could literally get a saber-toothed tiger, or you could get a literal house cat, or you could get the Khajiits that you know very well. And actually, we don't really get much in the games as far as the different changes. At least not that are immediately visible. In Morrowind, there's a big difference between the Khajiits in Morrowind and the Khajiits in Oblivion and Skyrim. There's really not much of a descriptor that I can give you. I would suggest you actually Google it. If you Google Khajiits in Morrowind and then you look at Khajiits in Skyrim and you put the 2 pictures together, you would be able to see a very, very noticeable difference. The Khajiits in here in Skyrim, like, they basically look like humanoids. Like, they don't really have much of a difference outside of their face and then a lot of fur and cat ears and tails and all that. But the Khajiits in Morrowind are kind of weird. They're lanky and skinny and they look more like leopards, but their legs have that, I don't know what you call those legs. It's like mantis legs or something. It's like kind of back. It's just weird, man. If you Google it, you would be able to see it, because I would have a really difficult time explaining it. But yeah, they change a lot depending on the moons. Well, the biggest differences will come from the big moon, from Masser. So if Masser, for example, is like, full waxing, waning, or a new moon, then the differences would be there, right? So, and then the second moon, Secunda, basically decides how bestial you would look. So if you say, for example, if you're supposed to be born like a saber-toothed tiger, right? Let's say that the that the big moon is full or something, right? And you're supposed to be born as a saber-toothed tiger. Depending on Secunda, whether it is waxing or waning, you can become more bestial. So you would be bigger and have longer teeth, or be more like this monstrosity, just too big to even be ridden. Or you could be like a small kind of saber-toothed tiger that could actually be ridden. Maybe would be more intelligent. Maybe would be more passive, right? The same thing applies for the more humanoid shapes. So for example, there is actually a type of Khajiit that is so human or so elvish that you literally cannot tell the difference between a Khajiit and a wood elf. Now, I know that that sounds weird, but I'm being very literal here when I say that there is a shape that the Khajiit can take if born under the right moon, that you could literally not tell the difference between a wood elf and the Khajiit. In fact, there's tons of stories. There's even one, because I've been talking a lot about the Knights of the Nine recently, because I love that DLC. There's a story about Pelinal Whitestrake, where he, in his rage, you know, killing elves, he actually killed like thousands of Khajiit warriors because he thought that they were elves, which is hilarious. There's also a type of Khajiit that looks like humans. If you're interested, actually, you should look. You should Google Khajiit in Redguard or Khajiit in Daggerfall. Just go and look to see how the Khajiits used to look like in those games, and you would see that they're literally humans. Like, there's no difference. You might get like a human with like cat ears, basically, or like a human with a tail, but for the most part, they just look human, right? Like, it's hilarious. It's just one of the very interesting things, even though we don't really get to see much difference. I want you guys to pay attention to why the animals are fighting each other. You can see that the rat has been killed and the wolves were sort of fighting each other. It seems like the fighting is already over. But there's a reason why why I want you guys to pay attention to that. It'll be explained in just a minute. So what's the name of this cave? This is Crystal Drift Cave. So as you look around, there really isn't much. There isn't a boss. Dear God. There really isn't much. It doesn't seem like a big location. But there is this elf, actually, who has been just sort of put all the way to the top. Now, it is not known, though, if he actually sort of sacrificed himself or if he actually got killed by the wolves. It's interesting because he doesn't really have wounds in his body. There's a lot of blood everywhere. Oops. There's a lot of blood. Sorry, buddy. There's a lot of blood everywhere, but just not where he happens to be. And it is also interesting that he's like on the highest position. There's like a light coming down and it's like reflecting on him. I'm not sure. It just sounds like it looks like a sacrifice. Like he was put there on purpose by some entity or some force. Though it would also make sense for him to seek the highest point if he wanted to defend himself against monsters. What's interesting, though, is his staff. His staff is called Gagnor's Staff of Charming. And when you look at the staff closely, you will see that it has an effect that makes things attack other things. It gives people rage, the rage ability. Makes everyone fight everyone. So that's why you actually saw, for a second, the wolves fighting each other, and that's why you see the Skeever is dead. And you can actually, depending on your level and all of that, and the randomness of Skyrim, you can actually find bears in here and trolls in here, and if you are lucky, you can actually see them fight each other, which is interesting because it seems like he used a staff. This was his name, Gagnor? Gadnor, yeah. He used his staff on the animals here to have them fight each other. And there's like a leftover effect when you first enter here. Though it's weird why he did that. It's a little bit unknown. And what makes it even more interesting is that there is a shrine to Kynareth in here. Of course, the matron of beasts and animals. And a cure poison. It's just kind of interesting, right? Seemingly, this guy had a shrine in here or something. I mean, someone had to have brought this here. I would imagine it would have been him. But he was trying to charm some of the beasts and ended up getting killed. It's kind of weird. There really isn't like a story here. It's more like trying to figure out what happened just based on the context clues that we get. But I don't think there's anything else. There might have been a chest here, but I don't see anything. Yeah, I guess we're done. Just a small interesting thing. I mean, he was definitely living here, so that much is sure. Whatever he was doing to the animals, though, I guess we'll never know. I guess we'll never know. But yeah, it's very difficult to explain the whole Khajiit transformation thing because, like in Skyrim and Oblivion, we only really get one type of Khajiit, right? But there are so many. Like, you can find Khajiits that literally, like, instead of looking like cats, they look like panthers, or they look like tigers, right? So there's like a bunch of different types, and that's mostly depending on Secunda, the smaller moon. The first moon would basically transform them into like cats, or like little tiny house cats or whatever. Oh my god. There's a lot of animals in here. Yeah. Gotta be constantly resting. I wanna make it to the dragon, though. To be honest, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to defeat the dragon, mostly because I don't have any healing items. I don't even have the elemental fury shout, so this is gonna be pretty difficult. The next question, though, was from Mac Goldenblade, who asked me, "Hey, who's your favorite Daedric prince and why?" My favorite Daedric prince, I think, is honestly Clavicus Vile. It's hard to explain why. I think it's just because of... he's like the most approachable Daedra. It really does seem like it. I feel like you can contact him at any point in time. You can just sort of wish him for something. I think he just leads to the coolest events. You know, like you could just go to this guy and ask him, "Hey, I want to be the fastest person on Nirn," and he's just gonna make it happen for you. And but it's not just gonna make it happen. It's gonna give it a funny twist to make you suffer, and I think that's hilarious. Like, I don't know if I would approach him like if I was living in this world, because of all of the shenanigans that he would most likely do to me if I were to ask for anything. But I just like the fact that he's so approachable, and the fact that his Daedric realm is like... that's gonna explode, huh? The fact that his Daedric realm... Jesus Christ, get wrecked. Wow. The fact that his Daedric realm is like a place where people actually live, and it's a location that has cities and like people just kind of existing, being happy, trading, and having like a normal existence. Like, that's just super cool to me. Like, when I think about... oh my god, I just want to get rid of... I guess I can shoot it with a bow, but I don't think I have any bows with me. This is gonna be a nightmare. Maybe I can trick it. Okay, that seemed to work. Let me just quick save. Okay, beautiful. Alright, the Lost Tongue Overlook. Now this is gonna be a little bit tricky. Whew. I don't really have much. I need to like take the time between episodes to get some better spells, because I need a better conjuration. Atronak. Hopefully this is gonna distract him enough. Hello there, Blood Dragon. Yep, this is not gonna work. Resting pieces. Alright, we're gonna get the Word of Power. Actually, I don't think I even have to defeat him. I can come back later to defeat him. It's not a big deal. I just kind of wanted to get the location. I can just kind of chillax here for a bit. Do I have the location? No, I don't, so I'm gonna have to get closer. What's interesting about this place, the Lost Tongue Overlook, which is clearly a big overlook, is who is the Lost Tongue? Are we talking about a graybeard, or are we talking about a literal language? Now, the answer possibly lies on what is actually written on the word wall. So just like how we read the word wall back in the statue of Meridia, we can actually read the one here. Now, because this is my first word of power for the Dismay Shout, which would be what we would be getting here, it would be Fas for us, which would be, Noble Nord, remember these words of the Horde Father. Fear not the spectre of death, for he is the herald of glory and your guide to great Sovngarde. Now, that's what's supposed to be written in there because it is our first word of power. However, it doesn't really tell us much about who this tongue is or what tongue it would be that they're celebrating with this monument. However, the other two words of power yield very interesting paragraphs. If we would be getting the second word, which is Ru, for the Dismay Shout, it would say, this stone commemorates the doomed elf children of the Autumn Field, who fled in terror from the sharp swords of the ancient enemy. Now, first of all, it is interesting because Riften and the area of Riften is typically associated with autumn, right? So the fact that this plaque would say autumn, the autumn children, would sort of make sense for this to actually have been intended for it to be that paragraph. And if that is the case, then it is likely that when they say the Lost Tongue Overlook, that they probably mean language, and they probably mean the language of the Falmer, of the snow elves that probably used to live in this location. And I think that's particularly interesting. Now, let's just go ahead and... Oops, just hit my hand on the table. I want to get the shout, and then just get the hell out of here. I can get all these things. Nice. I want to collect all of the emeralds and rubies and gems that I can. So that when I get my home, my Hearthfire home, I can actually decorate my house with all the gems that I have collected. I did that back when I streamed my 100% run of Skyrim, and it was really fun doing that. Just like decorating your house full of gems and treasures. It's like the best. Oh. No. Gotta somehow survive this, you guys. Can I use my whirlwind sprint? Somehow make it out of here. Maybe if I use my Aether now. Come on, just do it. There we go. Now, do you see that house that is on fire? Isn't it interesting? Typically, houses are not on fire. If you find houses that are destroyed in Skyrim, typically they're just destroyed. Probably destroyed a long time ago. But this one is literally on fire, which is particularly rare to find in this game. Now, please, I would probably have to try and hide, huh? Because I don't think he's gonna let me go. Oh, he's coming. Alright, I did what a smart person would do, which is just reload directly before encountering the dragon. It's interesting, too, that there's actually a Stormcloak soldier here. For whatever reason, he's there. Probably having been killed by the dragon, but it's just so random that he's just sort of there. Alright. Well, now that we don't have to deal with the dragon, we can talk in peace. We can hang out, guys. But the reason I wanted the peace is because I actually want to talk a little bit about that house that was on fire. And now that we're out of combat, we may be able to actually see what I wanted you guys to see, which is, it's probable that we might not see it. It's one of those things that happen in this game that if we catch it, then you can get a little bit more context as to what actually happened in this place. Like, why is this house actually on fire? Because like I said before, typically things have already been destroyed, and they have been destroyed for a while. But this is one of those unique cases where we are actually seeing the destruction of the place as it is happening. Like, the fact that this is still on fire means that this happened relatively... That didn't happen really too long ago. But it doesn't seem like we're gonna see it. There is a chance that you can actually find an Atronach, a flame Daedra, sort of hanging around by this area. I think the bear saw us. And the reason why that's important is because it was actually a flame Atronach that caused that fire. And I'll show you guys that in a second. The power attack for the dual wielding set is just sick. It's like the sickest thing you can do. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the Atronach is anywhere here. Look how big Masser is, though. Like, that's huge. It's crazy. But if you come in here, then you kind of get the answer of what happened. You see a corpse that has been burnt. You notice there is a magical circle. What actually is a summoning circle. So this person was trying to conjure something. Open the chest. Get some items. Now let's see if we can find what we're looking for here. There it is. Scroll of Conjure Flame Atronach. Or Atronach, I don't know how to pronounce that. He was trying to conjure a Daedra. But it ended up backfiring. And he got killed. And his house burned up. Sort of a failed wizard, this one. It's pretty unfortunate. So sometimes there's a chance that you can actually see the Flame Atronach just like walking around in this area. So kind of leads you to believe that he actually ended up summoning the Daedra, and it was the Daedra then that just burnt the whole thing. Which is a little bit sad, of course. So let's just go ahead and fast travel here. Get a little bit closer to the orc settlement. We'll deal with the dragon soon enough. Once we're a little bit stronger, or rather when I actually have healing potions, because I definitely rely on those. But that's probably gonna be it for this episode, actually. Because that tower that you see on the map that we're basically getting very close to, I wanna just walk from the trail here. Oh, you can actually also see the orc settlement on the map too. But that tower will lead us into a quest, and it's a very interesting quest with a lot of lore. We're going to be dealing with Hagravens, and actually it's one of the few quests in Skyrim that gives us lore on the Hagravens, one of the more mythical and least understood creatures of Skyrim, so that's going to be interesting. But expect that on the next episode. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to leave me comments down in the comment section below or on Twitter so that I can answer your questions or read your comments. Also, make sure to follow me on Patreon. Help me out, guys, so that I can keep doing these videos for you guys. I love doing them, so I would love to be able to continue to do them. But just like that, guys, I'll see you all next Monday. Thanks for hanging out.